Welcome to the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Brenda. And this is a podcast where we highlight educators who innovate, engage, and inspire through the use of technology. Today, we're very excited. We're talking to Zoe Bader. How do we know Zoe?
Zoe is a elementary school teacher in Watts, California. I know Zoe as she works in a school that we work with at the university. If there's anything we learned about Zoe in her interview, Zoe is enthusiastic about teaching.
So fun.
She has so much energy that I want to bottle it and just let a little bit of it out every time to just keep me young, because she loves what she does. It's very clear. You'll hear in the interview.
Absolutely.
And she is passionate about these brain breaks that she's been using in her classroom. And so we were so excited and so thrilled that Zoe was able to come actually into our studio and record with us live and in person.
And one of our very first guests.
Very first took a risk on us. She
did. And I just can imagine being a student in her classroom and how fun that would be.
We're so lucky because I was able to get into her classroom and take some photos of her actually using this software. So those are on our website.
Right. It's so fun. But without further ado, here's the interview with Zoe. Well, welcome, Zoe, to the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
We just want to get started here and just let us know and give us a couple things about yourself and maybe touch on your background and where you teach.
Awesome. So I teach out here in Los Angeles, specifically Watts. I teach at a Catholic school called San Miguel Catholic School, and I do 3rd through 5th grade reading and religion. Our school is about 200 students, speakers, and we're primarily Hispanic and Latino. A lot of our students speak both Spanish and English, and our church is actually bilingual, but mostly Spanish. So our masses are primarily in Spanish. So it's a really cool area to be in terms of just learning about different cultures. I grew up in San Jose, and so kind of being in this new environment that is different for me, it's really exciting to just kind of learn about a different culture that I was not raised in, and just get to experience a different community. And it's just such a wonderful community, and I'm so blessed to be there.
What made you go into education?
I was a theater major, but my focus was theater education. So my original goal in life coming out of high school was to open up my own children's theater company. And I had to do this project called an Arts Bridge project my sophomore and junior year. And what an Arts Bridge project was is you were given an arts medium, so visual arts, performing arts, and you had to teach a subject in a classroom. So my first project was I had a group of 3rd graders, and we were going to do a visual and performing arts project where we were going to take The Little Prince, and we were going to add another chapter to the book. If you know what The Little Prince is, or if you don't, it's about a little prince alien who ends up on Earth, and he travels to all these different planets. It was very interesting because I taught 3rd graders about philosophy and was like, oh gosh, how do I do this? But basically what they did was they created another chapter in the book of a new planet, and then they had to create a person who lived on that planet, and that person had to have a bad philosophy, and the little prince had to kind of figure out how to work with that person. So the kids made puppets and sets, and then we performed it for their parents. And at UCLA, I was only supposed to do 2 Arts Bridge projects, and I ended up doing 6. I did one every quarter because I just fell in love with it, and I kind of fell in love with the classroom from there. And then I had a few friends who were in the Place Corps program, the Partners in Los Angeles for Catholic Education. I graduated in 3 years, not planned, so started my master's at 20 years old, was a classroom teacher at 21. I hope my kids aren't listening to this because I'm 103 to them. But so it was kind of something that I had one plan, and then when I got into a classroom, I realized that was exactly where I wanted to be.
So you call yourself the non-techie, and you and I met about 3 years ago, and at that point, you really weren't even using a lot of tech in your classroom.
Oh, no, it stressed me out.
You were beginning to start implementing ideas and different tools into the classroom. And then the next time we met, you were presenting at like these conferences. And so if you could just tell us a little bit about like your journey and how you went from kind of being no tech in the classroom, it stresses me out, to being the non-tech techie teacher who really is utilizing classroom tech on a daily, multiple times a day basis.
So it's actually all thanks to you. And also it's you and my coworker, Doris Flores. When I started with technology, it would stress me out. I didn't like using it and be digital to implement it. Like, I was just so scared for kids to touch buttons. I was scared they wouldn't be digital citizens and they would end up on a wrong website. And then I would have parents coming after me. Like, I just didn't know where to start. When I was getting my master's, you led a PD for me on tech tools to use in the classroom. And you did it in a way that I felt comfortable, and I felt, oh, I could use that. That would look really cool in my classroom. And so I started with Kahoot because I was like, oh, that's so cool. My kids would love that. So we kind of started with that. And then with Doris, she was integrating technology pretty much every day. So she was really encouraging me and inspiring me to do more tech in my classroom. And then you and I had a conversation one time. We were at a PD together. It might have been C3 when I ran into you again. And I told you my biggest frustration was I would go to these workshops and they would give me 30 tech tools and I wouldn't know how to use them, and I wasn't taught how to use them. And that's what stressed me out, is I don't know how to use this in my classroom.
Just too overwhelming.
Yeah, and it was just, where do I even start? And I said to Shannon, I wish there was a workshop that picked 2 to 3 tech tools and really taught you how to use them. And her response to me was, you should do that. And I was like, oh, no, I am not. No, not at all in technology. But Doris was like, oh, that's so exciting. Let's do it. So her and I kind of got together and we presented at workshop. So I talked to Shannon in August, and in October, Doris and I did our first workshop called Tech for the Non-Techie. And
we periscoped it. I believe we live streamed it through Twitter.
I think so, yeah. Again, I was not at that tech level at that point. So they were doing things, and I was like, all right, sure.
Just tell me where to talk.
But we got really good feedback from that. And since then, Doris and I have done C3 every year. So we've presented there 2 years now.
And that's the LA Archdiocese Tech Conference for their teachers that's sponsored at Loyola Marymount University.
Yeah, and so it's really cool. And now I've kind of also gone off on my own and started doing my own PDs. Did by myself was on Go Noodle, which we're talking about today. So it's kind of perfect that when I kind of like got my own footing as my own professional developmenter. Is that how you would say it? Professional developmenter?
I like that, though.
That sounds good. We'll go with that.
Yes,
Yeah.
So my own professional developmenter was with Go Noodle, and so it's been a really cool journey. And I now get to present for Go Noodle all around Los Angeles. So
that's awesome.
It's all thanks to this lady, and she won't take credit for it, but it really is.
You did it all by yourself. You guys are in a one-to-one. You're moving towards a one-to-one iPad initiative, at least for some of the grades. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So we do have one-to-one iPads, but we're doing a slow rollout because we want to make sure students and teachers are prepared to use the devices. And so that's kind of where like my non-techie side came in. If I was like, I don't know what I want to do with this. And so as we've received PDs and I've gotten to look at apps such as Seesaw and Flipgrid and Google Classroom, I've been able to kind of see how I want that technology used in my class. And I'm kind of one of the first teachers who's actually rolled out the iPad. So my 4th graders and my 5th graders now have iPads in their classroom. We're working on the 3rd graders, but our biggest thing is making sure that students are responsible digital citizens before they get those devices, because we don't want to give them devices and then a week later have students YouTubing and Googling things they shouldn't, because, that makes it a liability for us. So we're in the process of going one-to-one, and I think the way we're going about it is really creating awesome digital citizens who are very aware of how to use technology and how technology can enhance their learning. We're moving there, but it's a slow process. But I think it's kind of what our school needs, and I think a lot of schools should follow that model, because if you just give an iPad to a kid, they're going to go, what do I do with this? They'll want to play games with it because that's how they use it at home. But really showing them what are these tools and how are we using these tools in our classroom really kind of gives them ownership of their learning.
So now that you mentioned the games, I mean, one of the things that...
apps, we call them apps.
Apps, oh, sorry. that we wanted to touch on today was what you're actually coming to speak here to us about, and that is Go Noodle.
Or as you say it, Go Noodle!
Yes, and so I know nothing about it. So if you can let me know, and so I can be on the in crowd.
So Go Noodle is a website that has a bunch of different videos with different content. When it was originally launched, it was launched for brain breaks. So there are videos where kids are dancing or running or singing, just to kind of get them up and moving, because we've seen a lot of studies that show that students need that time to get out of their seats, as we would say, get the wiggles out. But really it helps with the blood flow. It helps them refocus. So Go Noodle is basically a website that allows you to get kids out of their seat. But over the past few years, they've also kind of moved in this direction of also being content specific and allowing teachers to use it as lesson hooks for a curriculum or as end of a lesson videos to review content that you've learned. So there's so much on Go Noodle. I could spend probably an hour talking just about one channel of it, but obviously we don't have that time. So basically, you go through, I'm sorry, this is a mess. Sorry.
That's okay.
So basically they have different channels, and each channel kind of has a different focus. So they have Blazer Fresh, and there are these 3 guys who rap, and they're super cool. My kids are obsessed with them. And then they also have these guys called Cuckoo Kangaroo, who I saw live, and it was hilarious because you could see all the teachers in the crowd dancing with them. But they do just absolutely ridiculous videos of like dancing with milkshakes and having cat parties. And then they also have channels where kids are able to do yoga or Zumba or breathing exercises. So it's not just one thing of they just do this one dance, but it offers a variety of different brain break tools that you can use in your classroom.
And when you say brain breaks, you just mean to get away from very rigid learning sessions in your classroom.
Exactly. So when I started Go Noodle, it was in my first year, and I was really struggling with behavior and transitions and just trying to figure out how to transition between the core subjects, because I was teaching reading and math back to back. And I was just having a lot of issues getting that focus in math, because they'd be chatty, they'd be screaming out, they'd want to have all these bathroom breaks. And I really felt like I didn't know how to get them engaged in the content. And so one of my coworkers one time showed me this video of this monkey named Maximo doing yoga, and I was like, what is this? And he was like, oh, it's Go Noodle. And I immediately became obsessed. I got the app right away and started using it with my kids, and they loved it. And so we started doing it in the middle of the day. So we do reading, and then we do a Go Noodle break, and then we would go into math. And immediately I saw a behavior improvement, and I saw students more focused because they got that chance to end a subject, like fully end it, where they got to just kind of shut their brains off,
right,
and just be silly for a minute and then be ready to come back into the other subject. And so that's kind of where I started with Go Noodle, was with the brain breaks. Throughout the years now, I've really used it in incorporating it with my curriculum, because the Plus version has all these really cool question sets you can use. They have videos that are specifically geared towards content you're teaching in your classroom. So whereas it started as a brain break, I now use it across curricular and also as the brain breaks as well. So it kind of depends on what we need in the class at the time.
As a teacher and having been in the classroom, I can see or hear other teachers, and myself included, like once we get them riled up on this brain break, because it sounds like it's very engaging and it's very, movement oriented. How do you, because you were using it as a way to help them transition to kind of, how do you bring them back to, okay, now it's time to, transition to the next thing? So how do you bring them down? Because I could see a teacher being like, once I get them up here, I have a really hard time bringing them back down to the focus area. What's your strategy?
Yeah, so I definitely see that. And my class this year is very rambunctious. And so with them, I knew I couldn't just Go Noodle, then go into a new subject. So when we started Go Noodles with our third graders, I was very explicit of, here is how we Go Noodle. So when I say we're going to Go Noodle, this student is our student who closes our door. Then everyone has to stand up and push in their chairs, and then you only Go Noodle at your desk. If I see you away from your desk while Go Noodling, I'm going to stop the video. And we won't finish it if not everyone is participating at their seats. And then afterwards, they know that once the Go Noodle is done, they have to sit down. And Go Noodle is really cool because they have these little champs. So each of your class has their own little champ that they're leveling up. And so once you get to 10, your champ grows. He goes to the transmorpher. And then it makes this cool sound, and he grows, and there's cheering. But what's cool is you're in control of that. So if you see students like not participating or not listening, then you can kind of be like, all right, well, I'm not going to show you your champ growing then. Or I'm not going to show you earning that point. So there's definitely ways you could do it because kids like to see how many points they need to get that champ to grow. So it's kind of just setting it up in your classroom. What is it going to look like? Are students allowed to be wherever they want in the room, or do they have to be at their desks? You could even make a poster of after a Go Noodle, we're sitting quietly, eyes on teacher, ready to learn. And just letting kids know that if I don't see those behaviors, then we're not going to do another Go Noodle. And they love Go Noodle so much that you're going to get that behavior from them that you want to see. So even when I do the craziest videos where they're running in place and jumping and diving, like once the video is done, they know they have to sit down.
Excellent. In looking at GoNoodle's website, in doing the research that I did for you coming today, I noticed that it says that it allows for movement and play, also while covering content and skills and topics, hundreds of skills and over 17,000 plus grade-specific questions. And it also said that it was aligned to ELA, math standards, social studies standards, health standards. I wanted to learn a little bit more about that. A couple of things, specifically about how you chose kind of the subject areas that you focus on, but also maybe elaborating a little bit, because you teach 3rd through 5th graders, but like, what might this look at in a K through 2, or what happens above, like, does it just kind of end at 5th grade or things like that? So I know that's kind of a complicated question, but
we can break it down. So with the questions and kind of what GoNoodle talks about with all the questions they offer and the content-specific videos, a lot of that comes from the Plus version. So GoNoodle Plus offers a lot of games and activities that are aligned with content standards. And my favorite thing about GoNoodle Plus is it also offers learning extensions. So when you go into a video, if you see a little paper with a plus sign on it, it means that there is a worksheet or activity that is aligned to that video. So for example, with Blazerfresh, they have this awesome video called Think Like a Scientist that goes through the entire scientific method. And they have a worksheet that goes with it that breaks down the scientific method, and you could do an experiment with your kids with it. So you could show the video, pull that learning extension, and then do an experiment with kids where they're kind of following through with what did they learn in that video. And they offer that for so many of their videos. They have little either an activity that teaches them something new from what they learned about it, or aligns directly with that video. The other great thing about GoNoodle Plus is it offers question sets. So that's kind of where you're getting those 17,000 questions. So when you go into the Plus version, there is a button that says question sets. And when you go into the question sets, it's either going to offer you to create a question set, or they have question sets already set up for ELA, health, math, science, and social studies. So for me, when I go in, I do teach 3rd through 5th grade reading and religion. So a lot of what we do is doing character development and finding the theme of a story. So I can go into ELA and find a set of questions that aligns to what I'm teaching. Or with religion, obviously GoNoodle doesn't offer religion questions, but I was teaching my students about Old Testament versus New Testament. So I created my own set of questions where the students were then able to do a GoNoodle video with my questions. So we ended up doing hot dog field trip, which they all love hot dog. And so you get to go on a field trip with hot dog. So you're running and jumping and ducking, and then you'll stop and hot dog will ask you a question. And so with them, I use it as a quick check of, all right, I taught this to you yesterday. Do you still remember it? And so it's like multiple choice. So to make sure it's not crazy, we do it with fingers. So like 1 finger means A, 2 is B, 3 is C, and 4 is D. So they'll stop, they'll get that question, they'll raise up their hands for what they think the answer is. And then it's an assessment for me of, okay, everyone got it, but this kid is raising the wrong numbers. So I'm going to see what's going on with them. And then they're able to kind of get that moment of their learning, but they don't realize they're learning because they think they're just running and jumping and diving. So that's really cool with in terms of the question sets they offer. With students, GoNoodle, I know so many TK teachers who use GoNoodle because what it does a lot of times is it offers gross motor skills and also guided dancing, which for the little ones is so good for them to kind of learn how to follow along with someone. So it's kind of teaching them those direction skills. It also does a lot of call and response videos. So with the little ones learning how to repeat after each other, repeat after a teacher, you can do a lot of that with GoNoodle.
I probably could use this like in my real life because I know, right? I have a hard time dancing.
They have,
Following directions.
They have Zumba, which is fun. I joked with my roommate one time. She was like, I didn't go to the gym today. I said, great, go GoNoodle with the Zumba video. There you go. You get your workout for the day. So it's really cool in terms of what they offer for the little ones. And when you look at GoNoodle, my new favorite thing that they just launched this year is they do this little snippet, 7-second video before the actual video starts that shows you what you're going to learn. As a teacher, it's really cool because it's like, oh, I want to find a guided dancing video that also has call and response. So I can find that in those short little things and be like, oh, that meets that. But also, when you're talking to administrators and they walk by your classroom and your kids are up and screaming about milkshakes or screaming about cats, as an administrator, I know because my administrator asked me about it, saying, what are your kids doing?
Right.
And so when you have this little snippet video that shows all the skills it's going to be covering, it's like, well, here's how it aligns. So yes, we are dancing, but it also covers ELA content. So that's really cool in terms of what the plus version options and then the questions. Did I touch on everything? Oh, yeah. The older grades. Yes. So with the older grades, it's really how you present it. Now, I am just known as the crazy teacher at my school. Like, I am the teacher with the ukulele making up songs all the time. Like, I am running around. I do all of our art stuff. So it is not uncommon for me to go into a class and expect kids to sing or dance with me. And they've kind of accepted that about me. So even the older kids will go noodle with me because I just go in and I say, if you think you're too cool for this, you're not. And if you'd rather sit and act like you're too cool rather than having fun, then that's your prerogative, but I'm going to be up in the front dancing and having a good time.
So you'll run into that like in junior high? Or...
Yeah, but it's really, you just go, all right, you can either sit here quietly or you could actually laugh and like dance and just be silly. And most of them will buy into that. But if you're a teacher who goes, okay, guys, we're going to go noodle, and you put on the video and then you're sitting in the back, of course your kids aren't going to do it because they're not seeing you being engaged with it as well. So I know with our 5th graders, when I first started Go Noodle with them again in 5th grade, they're like, oh, we did this in 3rd grade with you. And I was like, exactly. And we're going to keep doing it. And so the fact that I would dance with them got them more excited because they could be silly and have fun with their teacher. And I have met high school teachers who do Go Noodle. I talked to an AP calculus teacher and I was like, have you heard of Go Noodle? He's like, I do it with my kids. I was like, you do it with juniors and seniors in high school? He was like, yeah, you just present it as a way of, we're going to get a break. And just because you're old doesn't mean that you don't need to get out of your seat. And the other thing, too, is one of my favorite quotes is there's a Go Noodle for everyone, but not every Go Noodle is for you. So as a teacher, you kind of look for what videos align with who I am and also who my students are. So I'm very energetic and like my classroom is always just up and doing something. And so the calming videos are not our favorite thing. Like I've tried to put on the breathe videos for them and they just look at me like I'm crazy. But I've met other teachers who totally are like these zen, awesome, quiet, calm teachers. And that's all they do with their kids because that's just kind of the environment of their classroom. So it's really just seeing like, what do I want to use Go Noodle for? What videos align with what I want, and then what videos work best for my students. And that's why I love all the content they have because there's so many options out there.
Excellent. And I just want to ask, because we talked about the standards, math, ELA, science, social studies, health. Math, ELA is the Common Core?
Yes, for the most part. With their questions, a lot of it is based on, for ELA, it's a lot of the language arts standards. So a lot of identifying different types of nouns, verbs, there. They don't have as many reading specific questions, but that's why I love those custom question sets because then I can align it specifically to my curriculum. And with math, it is Common Core, and it's most, what they offer most is those fact fluency. So adding up to 10, adding multi-digit numbers. They have this really cool one in math that I have not done because I'm not athletic at all. But they have this one called, let me get the name of it, Mega Math Marathon, where your kids are answering math questions while they're running. And it tracks them. And by the end of completing like all these questions, your students will have run a marathon by the end of the year.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's like, it's only 3-minute increments though. So you're like, if you do it every day as like a math warm-up, your kids, by the end, you can say, guys, we ran 26 miles in our class.
Wow.
Like, it's really
That's
cool,
neat.
Everything they offer with that, yeah.
So now that you mentioned that, how long are these typically, these breaks or these
It
lessons?
depends on the video. Most of them range from 1 to 3 minutes. They have ones that are more interactive for students, and those can go longer. So there's one called Mountain James, or Montana James, which my kids and I really love because it's a board game. So they're answering questions, and then they can either compete against each other or they're competing against the computer. And that one is whichever person gets to 10 first wins. So if the board game is going slow and they're not getting those double points, then that one can take upwards of 10 minutes. But that's why I use that as either a hook for a lesson or as a review at the end of a lesson. So that way it is part of our curriculum. It's not just one for us to be silly and dancing.
When I hear something like this, I think that would be a great way to learn how to do the times tables, where something is just so boring and like 3 times 3, just to be able to get up and move. And sometimes when you move and you're learning at the same time, it comes together.
Yeah, it's all that kinesthetic learning. And they have a bunch of really cool math ones in their plus version. So they have Maximo the Magnificent, where they have to do a yoga pose while they're answering multiplication questions. And sometimes their bodies are like full on in pretzels and your kids are going, Miss Bader, I can't do it. I'm like, it's not about the pose, answer the question. They also have Freeze It, where they get to dance with it. They even have this really cool one called Body Spell, where you can put in your spelling words for the week, and then they get to spell with their bodies with Blazer Fresh. And so that one the kids really love because, spelling can be like, I don't know how to spell the word. And then you're like, okay, so this is a difficult word for us. Why don't we spell it with our bodies? So it's really cool how many opportunities they give the kids to really do that kinesthetic learning, which some kids are kinesthetic learners, so it allows for that differentiation. So you have your kid who maybe likes to just sit and write, so that's kind of like your standard traditional classroom setting, which we still do. I'm not singing and dancing all day long. Right. So we're meeting the needs of those students, but the kids who really do learn best with their bodies and by being active, GoNoodle really gives us that option for that.
Okay, so one more question for you. Probably not one more. You said, you've seen this being used from K through 12 very successfully. But I also have a question regarding even for preschoolers who haven't made it to a school yet, but maybe just want something to do with their kids when they're, a stay-at-home parent and want something else to do as opposed to just watching a video. Yeah,
so I actually kind of had to address this in my classroom this year. I had one student come and say, my mom doesn't want me go noodling. It's not educational. And I was like, oh, no. Okay, we're going to address this now. So in our back to school night packet, I did a whole page of, I am a GoNoodle Ambassador. I'm an event squad member of GoNoodle. I use GoNoodle daily in my classroom. Please use it at home as well, whether it be through Chrome or Safari, whatever your internet that you use is. But as students, they have an app that you can download on your tablet or your iPad, whatever you're using. And what that allows students to do is they can create their own champ, and then they can do videos at home. And so in a homeschool setting, what I would suggest to a parent doing homeschool is create an account like you're a teacher, because you are a teacher for your students. Right. And then still do GoNoodle breaks with them. Like, I know in the homeschool setting that there's a lot, you can get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time. If we get through math and reading, then you can do 2 GoNoodles. Or if you're using the plus version, cast it onto your TV or just have them doing it on the computer where they're able to do those question sets for you. Because with the games, they do offer the option of playing you against the computer. You don't need an entire classroom setting to do that. That is the GoNoodle for Kids app, yes.
I just Googled it. On my iPad, I'm installing it now.
And the other thing I love about it is beyond homeschool, just any parent at home can get the GoNoodle for Kids app and then think about it this way. Summer breaks, rainy days, right. Rather than your child, what I've said, exactly, great, let's go noodle together, and again, going back to what I've said is there is a GoNoodle for everyone. Not every GoNoodle is going to be for you. So it's kind of a way for parents to connect to their kids. Mom, Dad, we did this really awesome GoNoodle in class today. Let me show it to you. And then you can use it with them as a parent. I was at a health expo a few weeks ago presenting on GoNoodle, and I met a mom, and she was like, I use GoNoodle every day with my kids. She said she loved it because she would have her kids do about 3 GoNoodles before bedtime, so they would get all their energy out, and then they would be ready for bed, rather than just watching TV and then going to bed where kids can still be restless. And as a parent after school, that's what I suggested to my parents as well. I said, if you're having difficulty with students doing homework, make a deal with them. You do one homework assignment, you get to GoNoodle. Then you do your other homework assignment, and then you can GoNoodle again. This primarily works for grades TK, so preschool, all the way up to 5th grade. I feel like with 6th grade and up, you may have to be like, maybe not GoNoodle, but maybe there's something else that we could, but definitely at home using it as an incentive, and also just keeping kids active. If the kids can't go out, but they offer the workout exercises, they offer the guided dancing. Some of the videos I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so out of shape right now because I'm trying to run with the kids. So it definitely keeps kids active. It's not just something where they're kind of working out. Like, it really does get them stretching and moving.
Well, I think that's great. And I mean, last winter, it was a pretty brutal winter across the United States. And even for us in California, experienced a high number of rainy days. And so, I mean, just the opportunity, like you said, to just get them moving is amazing.
Right, absolutely.
And we do, I mean, let's face it, there is still an obesity, childhood obesity problem, I would even say crisis in the United States. So for them to be integrating activity into learning, why not?
Absolutely.
And kinesthetic learning has always proven to be extremely successful.
Well, and then sometimes, you have teachers or administrators that say, okay, you're getting punished by losing your recess. Right. Or, and wow. Okay, so now you have, you're too wiggly, so now you're going to sit here longer.
That psychological torture doesn't.
Right.
No, I think letting them, that's what they need. That's exactly to be moving. So that's fantastic.
And my other favorite quote is, when all else fails, dust yourself off and do a GoNoodle, because there have been times we are just losing it in the class.
Right.
Like, there's just too many things going on, and I just literally stop them and I'm like, we just need to GoNoodle right now. And what I love is I will always put on a video that makes them look as ridiculous as possible so I can laugh and kind of just reset. And that goes back to kind of creating that positive learning environment.
Right. And it's for you as well as the kids, right?
Yes.
For sure. Because if you're not in the right headspace, you can't be in the best place for them.
Yeah.
And it is about them.
Right.
And the amazing growth that your kids are experiencing in the classroom. So...
And you had mentioned earlier about being able to write your own curriculum within GoNoodle, and so you can even teach like a foreign language or
you could do anything with it. I started the year by teaching them about the games we could play with it, like the hot dog field trip or the Maximo, the Magnificent. I did that with classroom rules. So I created a bunch of question sets of like, how do we ask to go to the bathroom? How do we get out of our seat? So it was a really cool way of me introducing GoNoodle expectations, but also classroom expectations.
And you even said you can bring in other videos from YouTube.
Yeah, so that's the other cool thing. If you look at the bottom of the channels page on GoNoodle, there's one that said added from YouTube, and all you have to do is copy those links and then save them there. So I know sometimes as teachers we find this awesome video on YouTube, but I mean, I am not a YouTube pro, so I do not know how to save those channels or anything like that. If I find a good YouTube video, I'm just searching for it again next time I use it. But what I love about GoNoodle is I can just store them all on GoNoodle. So Cuckoo Kangaroo, which is one of their channels, they are releasing a bunch of videos on YouTube right now. Like, they had this really awesome Halloween video. So I was able to take that video from YouTube and put it onto our GoNoodle. So I wasn't constantly searching for it. It was all on that same domain.
And it saves there for you.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And then you can integrate your own teaching lessons, question sets into that.
Not on those. So the question sets only come into what the channel is called as Game On. And that's the one that allows you to add those question sets in. Okay. Yeah.
Good.
So it's basically an internet-based program.
Yes.
Correct? You just log in, and so no other devices or anything is required.
Nope, just the teacher's computer and then a way to project it.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent. Zoe, I want to thank you for your time today. You clearly meet the definition that we at the My Tech Toolbelt podcast have kind of dreamed of. As you're an educator who innovates, engages, and inspires. You're using innovative technology. You're engaging your students in a really meaningful way with the technology, and you're inspiring others at your school site and now across the globe with this amazing podcast in a way that is amazing. And I think the non-tech techie here will be someday a full-blown techie.
Absolutely.
I don't think you can claim that for too much longer, but I appreciate the
I was so excited
time today and being one of our first guests at our
Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited. I've been telling everyone I get to be on a podcast. It's like, this is so cool.
And not too painful?
No, not too painful. You guys are great.
Good.
And so to learn more about Zoe, to read her bio and get access to all the materials, you can visit us at www.mytechtoolbelt.com, and there will be links in the show notes to all of the resources that Zoe mentioned today.
And do you want to give your Twitter handle or email address in case anyone has
so I'm launching a website. It's called www.nontech/techie.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at TeachZoeB. So I really enjoy using Twitter in terms of just connecting with teachers who are also Go Noodling, or using other apps like Seesaw or Flipgrid. So that's basically all you'll see me tweet about. So if you love those 3 apps, then follow me on Twitter. I will follow back.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Zoe. Appreciate it.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. If you have enjoyed listening, please rate us on Apple Podcasts or send us some feedback on our website, mytechtoolbelt.com. We would love to hear from you. This will help us deliver the content that you want to hear. Thanks, and we're out.